Hello. Okay, well it's been over 3 months and I'm finally recording devlog number 4. I really need to work on uploading more consistently. So I decided to spend a bit of time creating marketing materials for my channel. I've actually got a name for my studio now, and I've also created a logo and an animated intro, which you probably noticed at the start of the video. Besides spending time on branding, I've also added quite a few new features to the game. So I'm now done drawing all of the portraits for the 5 playable characters in my game. These are the portraits that will appear in the upper left corner of the screen depending on which character is selected. Each one of these takes me about 7 to 8 hours to create from scratch, so all in all I spent probably almost a full week drawing them. All said and done, they turned out better than I had expected. Let me know what you think in the comments. So I've added some new background elements, specifically the skybox and the tree line. The skybox is a free asset made by Farland Skies. I'll put a link in the description for anybody who wants to maybe go check that out or download it. Overall, adding the skybox is one of the easiest changes that I've made that had a really big impact. As for the tree line, I used a bit of a neat trick here to help with optimization. Instead of using 3D models like I did for the other world elements in my scene, the trees making up the tree line are actually sprites resembling cardboard cutouts. The 3D models for the trees are actually about 3,000 vertices a piece, and this was even after simplifying them as much as I could using decimate modifiers within Blender. Since I'm planning on releasing the game for mobile, I need to reduce the number of vertices as much as possible. The entire tree line is contained within a single object within Unity's object hierarchy, and it has a script attached which automatically sets the orientation of the tree line in order to maintain the illusion of three-dimensionality. I'm actually considering removing the 3D trees from the map entirely in order to reduce the number of vertices even further. I've added a couple different particle systems to the game as well. The runes now have a stylized particle system that looks a bit like a sort of energy vortex, sucking energy in towards the center of the runes. I'm really satisfied with how they turned out, and of all the updates I've made to the game recently, this is the one I'm most excited about because I'm thinking ahead to all the cool spell effects that I can make using similar techniques. The other particle system that I've added is a trail effect for the character that's meant to look like a motion blur for when the character is running. This one definitely still needs some work, but I think it's okay for now and gives the general idea of what I'm trying to achieve. The biggest update that I've added is an inventory system complete with about 35 to 40 different items that the character can pick up. I've used royalty-free icons from a website called gameicons.net. The link will be in the description. The icons are provided in black and white, and then I customize them by adding my own colors. Even using the free black and white icons as a starting point, it was a ton of work to customize all the images and import them into Unity and write tooltips for them. The way that the inventory system works right now is that loot bags spawn on random tiles on the map, and then when the character gets close enough to them, they become visible. When the character walks over a loot bag, an item is chosen at random and added to the player's inventory. Eventually I'll also make it so that the enemy units have a chance to drop additional loot bags when you kill them. The inventory system isn't 100% complete yet. For example, one of the things I want to do is set up the scripting so that 3 of the inventory slots will work as quick access slots. The items that are assigned to the quick access slots will also show up in the top right corner of the screen and will allow the character to access them without having to open up the inventory, similar to how the inventory system worked in The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. I've updated the cursor system using raycasts and colliders, so now instead of moving the selection cursor using the 4 arrows in the bottom left corner of the screen, you can simply click or tap on the map tile that you want to select and the cursor instantly jumps to that tile. The old system was honestly ridiculously bad because if you wanted to move from one corner of the map to another, it would take 9 clicks, which is really annoying. The other nice thing about doing it this way is that now I've freed up all this space in the bottom left corner where the selection arrows used to be. I'm planning on putting a little information window there that will display info about the map feature or enemy that the player has selected. I resized the 3D model of the character and some of the other world elements such as the chests to make them about 30% smaller than they were in previous videos. The main reason for doing this was because I thought that the character seemed a little bit too big for the world. If you take a look at the rocks, there are ladders which will eventually allow the character to climb up and access the upper levels of the map. But with the character's previous larger size, it didn't seem believable to me that they would need a ladder at all. So I wanted to shrink the character to make the ladder mechanic a little more believable. I spent a lot of time just fixing bugs in the procedural generation system. I was getting some bugs where the algorithm couldn't find a solution to the map build in some cases. It couldn't find a way to fit all the required map elements, and it would get stuck in an infinite loop and crash Unity over and over again. The problems actually ended up being mostly due to just stupid little typos I had made in my code, but unfortunately the procedural generation algorithm alone is almost 2,000 lines of code now, and it's pretty complicated, so when I end up with errors in the code like that, it's a lot of work to debug it, and it takes up quite a bit of my time. The way that I've envisioned the Fog of War system working was that there would be 3 different environment settings: day, evening, and night. The time of day would progress after every level that the player completed. So for example, level 1 would be daytime, level 2 would be evening, and level 3 would be night, and so on and so forth. At night, the Fog of War system would come into play and would add an extra level of challenge, since the player would have a harder time seeing the features of the map, and the enemies would be completely invisible until they got within the player's vision sphere. I was debating about whether or not to even show the Fog of War system in this video, since when I tried to write the script to have the lighting and Fog of War system turn on automatically, I got all kinds of game-breaking bugs in the map's procedural generation algorithm. And honestly, I have no idea why the Fog of War system would break the procedural generation. They're not even supposed to be related to each other, which makes it even more confusing and frustrating. Like I mentioned earlier, the procedural generation algorithm is probably the most complicated part of my entire project, so when I'm introducing bugs into it, that's basically just a total nightmare. And that's just the beginning of it. There's so many issues I've been having with trying to get the Fog of War system working properly that I'm seriously considering scrapping it altogether. But I do want to get some opinions from people on whether or not they think it would be worthwhile to try to fix this and implement it, so please let me know in the comments what you think. I've created a combat system that will at long last allow the player to kill enemy units and start to build up loot and experience for themselves. I'm really not happy with the combat system, but at least I've got a working prototype for now. I'm probably going to end up scrapping it and remaking it. Some of the ideas I've got for how it could be improved are things such as shortening the animations for a more responsive game feel and making custom particle systems to act as weapons trails. Most of the game design lectures that I've seen will tell you to focus on perfecting your core game loop before anything else, and in retrospect, the combat system is almost certainly my core game loop, so I should have spent the time to get this right before I did anything else. With that in mind, I've decided to really focus on perfecting the combat system for the foreseeable future. So that's all I've got for now for new features. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please hit like and ring the bell and subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Bye.